Chinese Communist Party must be somehow like analyzing these fault lines in societies all over the world, right?
Yeah, we know that. I mean, and we know that here. I mean, that's why TikTok is such a problem. That's why the use of mass customized manipulation to create division within other societies is standard operating procedure for Chinese influence operations. I mean, you've had Kerry Gershanik on the show. He wrote a very good book about that, political warfare. We saw it happen in Taiwan. We saw it happen in Thailand. It's just basic. You know, if your target is strong and you want to weaken them, doing it from the inside is by far the most effective way of doing it.
Well, the Chinese Communist Party doesn't need to target America because we are perfectly capable of creating our own chaos. Thank you very much.
So I would argue that obviously there are divisions in the U.S. and there are problems. But what they've been very good at doing, something we've talked about, which is that they'll find a real problem, but they'll give you the wrong solution. Mm-hmm. So you'll say, for example, okay, if there are problems with, I don't know, ice cream is being served too cold, so the answer is to, burn down the creamery. Like the end point is always something that serves their purpose, even though the starting point may be legitimate.
Right. So it is a solution.
Yeah, it's a solution. Your ice cream will definitely end up more warm if you burn down the creamery.
Well, and also anyone who resists the idea of burning down the creameries is therefore also an oppressor who's trying to hurt people by subjecting them to really cold ice cream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So
also there's less food, which makes it very Marxist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and ice cream's so bourgeois anyway. You wouldn't want to But this idea of weakening from the inside, creating factions, divisions, chaos, like you said, it's been there since the late 19th century. So I'm not sure we shouldn't be surprised. And there is a counter to it. I mean, this is the thing. If you look at a situation like the Solomon Islands, they went through a period of chaos with the Civil War, and then they signed a peace deal. And it was very difficult. It's very difficult to sign a peace deal. You have to agree that the pain that you inflicted and the pain, suffering that you went through will be forgotten or will be overcome for a greater good. So that's very hard to do when you've had family members who are killed or when you've done terrible things or whatever, But they did it. And they signed the Townsville Peace Agreement about 20 years ago. And the solution was devolution of power, in part. And then the Australians came in on a peacekeeping mission. They led a peacekeeping mission. And they when you come in with a peacekeeping mission, it's more convenient to have centralized power, right? To have to just deal with the capital and then they deal with it. So that devolution never really happened. And the result now is when Australia pulled out of that centralized peacekeeping mission, China had a centralized system where they could walk right into.
I'm beginning to think Australia's the bad guy here.
So
there are a bunch of criminals.
Yeah, well, Australia really stood up to China in a lot of important ways. They took the economic hits around calling for the origins of COVID investigation. They have very good people in defense. I don't know who is making these decisions. So it's not Australia as a whole, but whoever is making these decisions is epically stupid.
About the Solomons specifically.
Well, it's not just, it's also Papua New Guinea. It's also a lot of the Pacific Islands. Yeah.
So let's talk about...
But it may not just be stupidity. There may be something else going on. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
There may be the relationship between Australia and the region was colonial. So Australia was the colonial power in Papua New Guinea, for example, until 1975, until relatively recently. And there were a lot of economic interests. So, for example, in the case of Bougainville, which is part of Papua New Guinea, you had John Coons, I think, on the show talk about this. There was a massive multi-billion-dollar gold and copper mine. And Australia wanted to the Australian business sector wanted to gain and maintain control over that, and that triggered a civil war there, which was again solved with a peace agreement, which was again never fully enacted, which is again has the potential to lead to this sort of division and crisis.
Right, and there are people in Bougainville, Papua New Guinea, who want to separate that into a new country.
Yeah, they had an independence referendum, which was part of the Bougainville peace agreement, which was, I think, 97% pro-independence. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Australia is looking at backing the centralized government of Papua New Guinea against Bougainville. It's very similar to the situation of backing Sogavari against sort of the devolution desires of Malaita province, which wanted to maintain relations with Taiwan.
Right, because even though the vast majority of people in Bougainville wanted independence, that's just a referendum to like see where people are at. It's non-binding, so it didn't actually achieve anything, and like constitutionally.
No, it was correct. It's part of the process that could lead towards independence.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does tell you is 97% of people want independence. They don't get independence. You're going to have a problem, right? So,
But there's a solution to that problem.
There is.
I believe it is send in the troops.
Yeah, well, that's one. The other is follow through on the peace agreement and help them become an independent country in a stable and secure way instead of making them desperate and violent and more willing to take aid from whomever will give them aid to create that dynamic. They're suffering. So they don't have an easy choice. They're not going to stay in this situation. So, yeah, these business interests is one component of, I think, the Australian traditional engagement. Another is, I think for some in Australia, there's an opinion, and you can see it in like the white paper that says that the area should be integrated in terms of economy and security into Australia and New Zealand. Basically, a post-colonial type structure where we would be better off running these countries. And the problem with that is, to go back to another recent event, when the Pacific Island leaders at the end of September were in D.C. meeting with Biden, the U.S. approach is very much still handling the Pacific Islands via Australia and New Zealand proxies. So that relationship between Australia and the countries of the region is undermining the U.S. position in the region. The countries in the region repeatedly say, we want to deal with the U.S. directly. We don't want you to ask Canberra what to do about dealing with us.